You don't arrive screaming into the world. You arrive noticed, but for all the wrong reasons. When the birthing pod hisses open on the Yautja prime, the midday suns of the binary system bake the mossy floors of the nursery. Your siblings are giants. They are born with thick brow ridges and heavy muscular tails. They are the sons of berserkers, built for the frontal assault, for the roar that shatters glass. You are lean. Your skin is the color of bruised obsidian, patterned with jagged streaks of pale gold that look like lightning caught in a jar. Your eyes aren't the yellow of a predator. They are a deep, haunting orange, like a dying star. The elders look at you and see a young blood who might not survive the first trials. They see a lack of mass. They see a quietness they mistake for cowardice. They are wrong. You aren't quiet because you are afraid. You are quiet because you are listening. You are listening to the heartbeat of the planet. You are counting the seconds between the nursery drone's patrols. You are learning the physics of the hunt before you even have a blade. Your training isn't about the shadows of an assassin. It's about the economy of violence. In the training pits, when the massive young bloods lunged at you with training spears, you didn't run. You stood your ground. You moved exactly 3 inches, just enough for the spear to graze your ribs, and use their own momentum to send them face first into the dirt. You didn't roar, you didn't gloat. You just waited for them to get up so you could do it again. The master of the hunt noticed. He didn't see an assassin. He saw a purist. He gave you your first name, Dark. Not for your skin, but for the void you left in the arena. Your ascension begins with a disappearance. While the other young bloods are showcased in the sun-drenched arenas, ritualistically brawling for the approval of the masses, you are led into the subterranean silence of the Hall of the Unspoken. There is no ceremony, no cheering crowd, only the cold, judgmental gaze of the ancient enforcers. They recognize that your spirit is too refined for the clumsy theater of the common hunter. You do not need the validation of the pack. In this sunless isolation, you are broken and remade. You are taught the geometry of the kill, the forbidden knowledge of how to end a life before the nervous system can even register a threat. You spend cycles in sensory deprivation chambers, learning to hunt by the mere vibration of a single hair, or standing motionless under the crushing pressure of deep-sea trenches to temper your willpower into a diamond. You aren't being trained to join the hierarchy. You are being forged into the blade that the hierarchy relies on. By the time you finally emerge back into the light, you are a stranger to your own kind, a lord in the making, draped in a silence that is louder than any roar. The blooding ritual is the moment a Yautja becomes a man. Most are sent to the standard preserves, swamps filled with 6-legged lizards or forests of stinging insects. They sent you to the death world of Vega 4. You were dropped with nothing but a basic wrist blade and a biomask. No cloak, no plasma caster, no backup. Your objective? The Great Skitterbeast. A creature the size of a transport ship with armor plating that could deflect a cannon blast. For 40 sun cycles, you didn't eat. You didn't sleep. You followed the beast. You learned that its armor had one flaw, the joints. But to reach the joints, you had to be underneath it. The day of the kill, you didn't use stealth. You stood in the middle of the beast's path. It charged, a mountain of meat and chitin. At the last microsecond, you threw yourself into the mud, sliding beneath its belly. You didn't stab blindly. You waited until you saw the rhythmic pulsing of its primary artery behind the hind leg. You drove the blade in, not with strength, but with gravity. You let the beast's own speed do the cutting. When you returned to the clanship, you didn't carry a head. You carried the creature's central nerve cluster, still twitching with electrical impulses. You walked past the elite hunters who were boasting about killing small bipedals with plasma casters. You didn't look at them. You knelt before the elder and offered the prize. He didn't mark your forehead with the blood of a common kill. He carved the symbol of the elite into your mask with a laser torch. You are no longer a young blood, he clicked. You are the end of the line. You are the dark. The galaxy turned into a blur of trophies. You hunted the ice whales of Frigidia. You took the skulls of the cyborg kings on the rim. But you were bored. The hunt had become too easy. The honor the others spoke of felt like a script. They wanted a fair fight. You wanted a perfect one. Then, the signal came from BG-386, a research colony. Human. But the signal wasn't human. It was an ancient Yautja distress frequency, encrypted in a code that hadn't been used in 1,000 years. It was the call of the Lords. When you arrived, the planet was a tomb. The humans had dug too deep. They had found a pyramid, a holy site where the first of your kind had trapped the serpent. But the humans were messy. They had let the serpent out, and worse, they had let it get into the tomb of the ancient Lord. You stepped off the drop pod and into the heart of a nightmare. The jungle was screaming. Xenomorphs were everywhere, not just drones, but warriors, praetorians, the heavy infantry of the hive. You didn't use the cloak. You wanted them to see you. You moved through the jungle like a god of war. Your wrist blades were no longer the short daggers of a scout. They were the long, serrated sides of a butcher. You didn't just kill the xenomorphs. You dismantled them. You learned the exact pressure needed to snap a tail, the exact angle to bypass the acidic blood spray. You reached the pyramid. Inside, the air smelled of old dust and sacred oil. In the center of the Great Hall, you found it, the Mask of the Lord. It was a relic of bone and gold, forged in the fires of the homeworld's birth. To wear it was to claim the title of ruler of the hunt. But it wasn't a gift. It was a test. As your fingers touched the metal, the shadows in the room moved. 6 elite praetorians dropped from the ceiling. They were the Queen's royal guard. They were faster than anything you had ever fought. The battle lasted for an hour. The walls of the tomb were painted green with their blood and neon emerald with yours. Your armor was shredded. Your mask was cracked. But you stood in the center of the carnage, holding the severed head of the last praetorian. You put on the Mask of the Lord. The HUD flared to life. It didn't just show you heat. It showed you the history of the planet. It showed you the layout of the entire hive. And it showed you the abomination, the predalien. It was the ultimate insult, a creature born of Yautja blood and xenomorph hunger. It was the reason the signal had been sent. It wasn't a distress call, it was a contract. The universe was asking you to kill a god. The final hunt took place in the caldera of a dormant volcano, where the hive had built its throne. Thousands of xenomorphs stood between you and the abomination. You didn't have an army. You had your pride. You activated the ancient plasma caster. It didn't fire blue bolts. It fired white-hot spheres of pure solar energy. Each shot cleared a path of ash. You walked through the fire, the Mask of the Lord projecting a terrifying ancient roar through the colony's speakers. The abomination met you at the edge of the lava pits. It was a mountain of gold-tinted chitin. It had your mandibles. It had your strength, but it lacked your soul. The fight was not a dance. It was a collision of planets. It struck you, breaking your ribs and throwing you across the stone. You struck back, carving a canyon into its chest. It used its tail to impale your thigh. You used your bare hands to snap the tail off and stab it back into the creature's own eye. The volcano began to wake. The ground shook. Lava began to spill into the arena. You were both dying. Your blood was a pool of glowing neon around you. The abomination hissed, its secondary jaw snapping inches from your face. You realized then that you couldn't just kill it. You had to erase it. You grabbed the creature in a bear hug, ignoring the acid that was eating through your chest plate. You felt your own flesh melting, the smell of ozone and burning meat filling your mask. You didn't let go. With a final, primal scream, a roar that wasn't for glory but for the end of a cycle, you threw yourself and the abomination backward, into the heart of the lava. The magma didn't kill you instantly. The Yautja body is built to endure. As you sank into the liquid fire, the abomination shriveled and died, its screams silenced by the density of the earth. But you felt the mask of the Lord fuse to your skull. You felt the history of your people flowing through your mind one last time. You didn't fight the descent. You closed your eyes. The volcano erupted, a pillar of fire that could be seen from orbit. It wiped the colony clean. It buried the pyramid. It sealed the tomb. Back on Yautja Prime, the elders stood around a holographic map of BG 386. The signal for the mask of the Lord had vanished. "Is he dead?" a young blood asked, his voice full of awe. The elder didn't answer. He looked at the spot where the signal had been, the dark spot on the map. "The dark does not die," the elder finally clicked. "He simply waits for the next hunt." But death for a lord isn't a destination. It is a transformation. Centuries pass. The humans return to BG 386. They build new cities over the old ash. They forget the monsters in the basement. But deep beneath the tectonic plates, in the cooling heart of the volcano, something remains. A mask of gold and bone. The humans find it during a deep core mining expedition. They think it's an artifact. They bring it to their laboratories. They study it with their primitive lasers and their shallow minds. They don't realize that the mask is still transmitting. It is transmitting the story of the hunter who didn't roar. The story of the warrior who chose the volcano over the trophy wall. One night, a young human scientist is working late. He touches the mask. He feels a vibration, a rhythmic thumping like a heartbeat. He looks into the orange lenses of the mask. For a second, he doesn't see his own reflection. He sees a jungle. He sees a flash of obsidian skin and gold lightning. He sees a blade that is faster than sight. He screams. Thousands of light years away, on a ship made of obsidian and starlight, a new generation of Yautja looks at a monitor. A new signal has appeared. An ancient signal. The dark has sent a message. "The hunt is never over," the message translates. "The prey is only resting." The new elite hunters don't celebrate. They don't boast. They sharpen their blades in silence. They have a standard to live up to. They have a void to fill. You are gone, but you are everywhere. You are the shadow in the corner of every hunter's eye. You are the silence before the strike. You are the dark. And as the human scientist drops the mask in terror, the orange lenses flicker one last time.